welcome to Tracy Momi Reads. I am back again with another video. Before we get started, I want to draw your attention to my oversized, my big hoodie here that I have on. I probably just messed up my hair, but this hoodie, it represents one of the best generations out there because I'm a part of it. Generation X, for those of us born from 1965 to 1980, you would fall under the category of Generation X, and have new sweatshirts, Gen Extra, because we stay doing the most, because we are the most. I am selling these through my Face of 50 website. I will put a link down in the description, but it's faceof50.com/shop, or just go to faceof50.com and click on shop, and you can cop one of these or get one for your parent. Oh, God forbid your grandparent if they were born during that time frame. So yeah, I normally get like hoodies a little bit bigger because, you know, like during the winter, like if you want to layer, like put a sweater or, you know, a thicker tee underneath it. But I don't know, this is a size large, and I normally don't wear a large, as you can see. So this is kind of big. So think about that when you're ordering. Okay. So anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program. Today, I am going to be discussing or talking about or reviewing or rambling about the book Worlds Apart by Jane Crittenden. Worlds Apart. I believe that this book was one of the Prime reads. You know, like if you're a Prime member, you get a free book every month. I mean, there are several that you can borrow from their library. The number of titles isn't as vast as Kindle Unlimited, but you do have some borrowing power. But once a month, they have titles that they like give you for free for being a Prime member. And this was, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is where I got this book from, because it had been on my Kindle for a couple of months. So, I don't know what made me I just clicked on it one day and started reading. Wasn't even part of my plans. But you know, what they say about, you know, best laid plans. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit of the blurb so that you can kind of get the idea of the premise of this book. 18 years ago, teenage Amy fled England, pregnant and heartbroken, to start over in New Zealand with her parents. Now, Chris, the love she left behind, has walked into her beloved cafe by the beach and thrown her life into turmoil. So, I mean, there's more in the blurb, but essentially, I mean, what it says in that first paragraph is basically what happens. There's a girl, you know, she's in high school. She, you know, falls in love with this guy, and through a series of miscommunications and different things, as we learn once you start reading the book, they end up parting ways, right? Well, 18 years later, he has come back into her life because she owns this cafe and he's an architect working in the area, okay? And comes across her, you know, or so we think, you know, like it's kismet or like a total coincidence, but it ends up not being one. I mean, she's all the way in New Zealand and they were from England, and that's where he was living. So I don't know how you just accidentally bump into somebody in a whole nother country. But anyway, the big deal, though, as you know, it says in the blurb, is that she was pregnant, you know, and he never knew. So that's the caveat. Okay, so once I started reading, I was really confused because, you know, as the blurb stated, it was about someone named Amy and a guy named Chris. Well, there are two points of view in the book, but neither of them belong to Chris. One is Amy and one is someone named Olivia. And I mean, I was really confused, y'all, because at first I was wondering if maybe Amy had stolen Olivia's identity or vice versa. Because in present day, every time, you know, they're talking about present day, it's Amy's point of view. And when they talk about the past, like back when they were in high school, it's Olivia's point of view, right? And the thing that was really weird, especially in that first chapter of Olivia's point of view, she talked about, she was like new to the school and kind of, an awkward teen, as most teens are, but she befriended a girl named Amy. So that's why I was kind of like, I didn't understand where this was going with the whole Amy and Olivia thing, right? But then it becomes pretty clear what is going on. But this isn't even a mystery book, y'all. This is more like, I guess, women's fiction or contemporary fiction. It could even kind of be in a sub-genre of romance. But so at its heart, it is really a love triangle, is what it really boils down to. And during the points of view of Amy, she had written Chris a letter, right? Because her parents like basically whisked her away. This opportunity came up for them to leave England and go to New Zealand. And she was like, I really didn't want to leave. My parents made me leave. And I wanted to tell you before I left, but I'm pregnant and it's your daughter. And 18 years flew by and she never saw him again. And she just assumed that he was like, ooh, baby, girl, I'm too young for that. I do not want to be bothered. I don't want you anymore. It's not like that between us. But he never got the letter. And that becomes pretty apparent early on in the story because the dude is real clueless. But Amy, she's really thinking like he's playing some kind of game, which he's not. Okay, so that takes me back to Olivia. So during the past, entries, which are in Olivia's point of view, we learn that she had a massive crush on Chris, right? And he only had eyes for Amy though, but she was Amy's friend, but at the same time, she, wanted Chris as well. So they were kind of pining for the same guy, and he chose Amy over her. So I was coming up with all kind of theories. I was like, oh, Olivia took that letter, or she took Amy's identity. She did something, to make Chris stay in England and never contact this girl, right? So that is what kept me reading. And Amy's daughter, who is also Chris's daughter, her name is Beatrice. She just happens to be like out of the country, like on this trip to explore and find herself. She's only 18. But so when Chris is there, he doesn't get to see her or meet her, because she's not there. And there was a part where, he knew Amy had a daughter, even though she wasn't there, because there was mention of her, that she lives in that town. She's been there for 18 years. So people were asking, well, how's B? Where's B? Have you heard from B? There's pictures, of her around. And he asked her about it. And she was like, oh, that's my daughter. And then she's like waiting to see, like, does he have any kind of reaction? Because all this time, again, she's thinking he got the note and he knows who B is and he just didn't give a damn, right? But like I said, dude is clueless. So he shares, when somebody else asks him, because Amy didn't ask him, I don't even think it crossed her mind to ask him, even though it has been 18 years and he's obviously not still the same boy that, she knew or was in love with back in high school. Someone asked him if he had any kids, and he said yes. And so initially Amy was like, he's talking about B. She was just so convinced, and it was like so apparent that he didn't know. But then she started thinking like, oh, I don't know anything about him. She finds out that he's married, or rather separated, but he went on to get married and have a kid. Meanwhile, she was a young teenage, struggling mother. She had her parents, but for the most part, she did all the heavy lifting when it came to her daughter. And then she just gets so bitter and pissed about, the whole thing, because it's like, how dare you? I've had to do this on my own. You're out having a happy little family and your daughter grew up with you and our daughter doesn't even know you. But again, this is a whole conversation she's having in her mind because she still has never told this man anything. Well, and I'm sorry, what I'm about to say, I feel like y'all put two and two together. I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to say something that may or may not, like I said, spoil it for you. But towards the end of the book, Olivia shows up. And yeah, turns out and Amy hasn't seen Olivia since high school, since they were both 18. And she's just as confused as the reader, like, well, what is she doing here? But I had kind of put two and two together before that even happened. And there's a reason Olivia is there. And it's not for Amy. That's all I'm going to say about that. But it's funny because I feel like the title of the book, Worlds Apart, on its face, you would think that it, and I'm sure it does, allude to the fact that, Chris and Amy, they got separated or, whatever, went their separate ways in high school, and they were living worlds apart, two different countries. Amy, young single mother, still trying to figure things out. Chris, he's in a whole nother country. He's gotten married and has a wife. So you think, oh, they're worlds apart in not only geography, but in the way that, their lives unfolded, right? But given that the author made the distinct decision to have this entire book told from the point of view of Amy and Olivia, whose lives were worlds apart. Olivia they both were only children, but Olivia lived with her dad. Her mom had left them, or her parents had got divorced. Her dad was not very attentive. She basically just grew up and lived by herself because he was always working, and she didn't really, deal with her mother. Meanwhile, Amy, her mom was very heavy-handed, but her dad adored her. So she had both parents that were very involved in her life and making decisions for her. So I think that there were multiple meanings to this worlds apart thing. And then at the end, because I will say this, let me backtrack. Turns out Amy's daughter, B, who's 18, because they've been 18 years. Chris has a daughter that's about to turn 18. Like, that's not B. That's a whole nother person, okay? And remember what I said about somebody popping up. So, it was worlds apart, too, that these two girls who were sisters didn't even know about each other, right? So I really enjoyed this one. It was, again, a break from all the mystery and suspense books, but it still had, to me, like a suspense element, the way that I was, flipping through the pages trying to, because in my mind, I was like, no way. That could not be, that can't, no, did that happen? So it was one of those books where you still find yourself swiping and trying to get the answers and get to, to what is really going on in this book. And like I said, there's a romance element because Chris and Amy, it turns out that their puppy love, it was still the way that they felt about each other, which most people would have written off as puppy love. It was still there, and very their attraction to each other and their interests and different things like that was very strong, even all these years later. So they ended up, kind of rekindling what was going on. So there was like this backstory with them in the present, kind of, even though she was like pissed and thought he knew. I think when it became apparent that he didn't know, and she had started kind of falling for him again, then it was like she didn't know how to tell him because she felt bad because he had missed out on 18 years of their daughter's lives. But it was a lot going on in the story, but again, it kept you engaged. And like I said, it'll keep you flipping pages. And has a satisfying ending. I mean, kind of cliche in some ways, and in some ways, I mean, I guess it just depends on like how you your experience, in the world. Because that's what I think, that a lot of people, the way that they deal with their interpersonal relationships is going to be based on their own personal experiences growing up, and maybe what they've experienced in their life. And I'm speaking primarily to the concept and idea of blended families, right? Because you have some people who, when they like are with someone that has a kid, they kind of become a surrogate parent. They step in and they're like, you know, loving that kid and helping the, you know, the parent out, the actual parent out. They, a lot of cases, may adopt the kid. Then you have some situations where if someone has a kid and they're dealing with someone, that person doesn't want to have anything to do with their kids, right? And they definitely, the friction most of the time though comes with the ex-partners, right? You're married to a man and he has a daughter with, you know, obviously another woman, right? And then those two women don't want to be in the same room. They don't like each other, you know, or maybe it's the men. But this story, it was a lot going on in that aspect. And I just felt like some of it was just too, they were hella accepting. That's all I will say about a lot of stuff. And again, that's based on maybe the experiences that you've had. I can understand, you know, when you're grown adults in your 30s, you know, you are like 36. I can understand you definitely want to have a cordial relationship, and not cause any tension or problem, because even if you're not together and you parent a child, even if you're not together anymore, you're going to probably always see each other or be in each other's lives in some way, because if that child gets married, both those parents are more than likely going to be at the wedding, unless the child doesn't deal with one of the parents. But if, you know, the child has a good relationship with the mom and the dad, they're going to be at the wedding. The dad's probably going to walk the daughter down the aisle. You know, they're going to be at the reception together. They're going to become grandparents together. So you got to kind of keep all that in mind when you're entering into interpersonal relationships or romantic relationships. And if they don't work out and there's a child involved, you know, it's just not as easy to just walk away from everything, you know. But like I said, there was not even any periods where it was like, this ain't gonna work for me. They were just like, kumbaya, my Lord. Which I kind of was like taken aback by that. But that may be the author's experience. Maybe she's from a blended family or she's a part of one and they just all loved each other without question, without fail. But just based on how they got to that point, I think I'm looking at the history is what I would have had a problem with. But that's all I'm gonna say about that. So anyway, if you are someone who loves good contemporary fiction, loves romantic fiction, you know, books that aren't too, how can I say this? Books that aren't just fluff, you know, maybe they have a little fluff. They give you a happily ever after, but you're going to have to work for it. The character's going to have to work for it. There's a little angst involved. We're going past the present, you know, things like that. If you enjoy books like that, then I really think that you would enjoy Worlds Apart by Jane Crittenden. You would really enjoy it. And again, based on the type of book it is, because y'all, you know, these mysteries, suspense, thriller books, they have set the bar so high in terms of like anticipation and expectation, because there's always something going on. Like when you pull back from that, it's kind of hard to you know, like get into reading books that aren't in that genre. So I had originally said that I was going to give this book like a 3.75 because, like I said, you know, y'all were just all too friendly in the end. I don't know how I felt about that. But that's my own personal thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a solid 4 out of 5 stars. Worlds Apart by Jane Crittenden. If you have read Worlds Apart, I would love to know your thoughts. Like, how accepting would you have been of the whole situation? Let me know in the comments. Make sure that you like this video and share it with someone who you think may enjoy it. Also, please take this opportunity, if you have not, to go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. You guys are the MVPs. I sincerely appreciate it. I just wanted to make a quick note before I sign off. So this is the last Thursday in November, because I wasn't here last week for Thanksgiving. I have 2 more regular reviews that I'm going to do for 2 books that I've read or I'm going to be reading. And then I'm going to do a video capping off, you know, the top reads of 2023 with a little bit peek into what I'm going to be up to for 2024. So that's a total of 3 videos, guys. So I only have 3 more videos for this year. I normally take the last 2 weeks off for the year, so there won't be videos then. So make sure, like I said, you subscribe and you turn on that post notification bell so that you don't miss out on any remaining content for 2023. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.